mentoring, I like to call it the three T's: transparency, trust, and love has to be in there. Because it has to all be done in love. Love has to be the motivating force of any of this, but all that leads to togetherness. So and again, when you think of transparency, you know, um, that bottle of water, you can see right through it. The Bible admonishes us to, be transparent. The Christian has to be transparent. Matthew 5:16 said, "Let your light so shine on this earth that men might see your good works and glorify your Father which is in heaven." Now, for transparency for us, we all have a bit of a facade. We all have an image that we like to portray, and that's who we are to a certain extent. But when you're mentoring, you have to let that seal down. You have to certainly, and you have to be the one that does it first. I mean, when I'm in the jails downtown, and I talk to the young men in there, I notice that they look at me in a strange way, and I can see them reading me. And so because again, they have a lot of the men, and young folks that are down there, they had, some experience with churches, and certainly, mom and dad, drugged them to church at a young age, and but and they've heard a lot of things from the church, and sometimes, when they get down, we all do that. We want to call on somebody. I mean, at a young age, when we get hurt as children, we want to call on our parents, our mother, mainly our mom, because, dad's dad. Yeah. I mean, I have a deacon in the church, and he's Deacon White. He says it's two people you're going to call on when you need help, mom and Jesus, So, but they look at you, and they read you. They see how you move. And I had one young man in there, and he was super intelligent. And that's another thing, too. Our young folks are so smart. They can see right through you. I mean, they know if you're real. So just like, when you're driving here, I'm looking through the, windshield, I have to be able to see. And if it rains, I have to turn the windshield wiper on. But you have to be transparent. You have to initiate it. They have to see the guards come down. They have to actually see you being vulnerable. Because and then this is interacting. You can talk with me too, because I definitely want to, get your thoughts on that too, because when you think about transparency and being able to let people look into you, it's not a comfortable thing. We're not comfortable with people seeing our insides, but God knows us from inside out. He knows our thoughts. He knows our being. And when we're with him and we're having time in fellowship with God, we let all our guards down. But the only way some people is going to get to know God or get to have the fellowship, with the body of Christ is through you and us. So, and when I talk about transparency, it has a cousin, which is trust. Trust is the cousin to transparency. When you think about trust, you look at the fact that you have to be genuine. You have to be real. Again, people know when you're not telling the truth. They know that. They can look at you and say, the police, they have this practice where they say, your eyes are shifting, you're looking up, you're this and that. They can tell when you're lying. That's why when you're being interrogated, they know when you're telling the truth. They know when you're lying. Signals. So that's what they do. Young folks do now. They because they Google everything. I'm getting there too. I mean, I was telling Pastor Hennessy, and I do call him Pastor Hennessy because he is a pastor. I mean, you don't have to have a church to be a pastor. But the fact of the matter is, I don't have a book face. I know it's Facebook. I know that. I tell them that all the time. So, the church is always saying, you got to get Facebook. I says, I'm trying to get out of this life without getting to Facebook. I mean, you can call me, you can text me, And again, even when we were in seminary, I'm like, they want to give you tapes and this and that. I've never heard myself or seen myself. I just don't, I don't like, and he already knows that. I said, I don't like, I don't like this, but,
Yeah.
but that's
couldn't
like,
get a bio out of him. They had to beat it out of you.
well, again, I just want to let you see me and be me. But the fact of the matter is, with the trust factor, you have to establish that. And again, when you think about the trust factor and you being genuine, people who look at you and talk with you, they, it's a scripture that says, the Bible says that they honor me with their lips, but their hearts are far. I think it's Matthew. I can't remember right now, but their hearts are far from me. When a person is talking with you and you're trying to mentor them, if they can't trust you, and they're gonna know that right off the beginning, they're gonna know. I mean, that's why when I go into the jails on Fridays, you know, I look at them in their eye, in their face, and I ask them, what can I do for you? What can we talk about today? And one of the things that we talk about, we mentor to them, is the fact that, you're here. What are you going to do while you're here? Now, what got you here, and, and that you got some time here, and, what are you going to do with your time? And most important, what are you going to do to not come back here? And not just, it's reciprocating. You have to, especially when you think about the fact that while they're in there, and I always remind them, I says, you're not doing time by yourself. Your family's doing time with you, your wife, your children. I says, they're not locked up physically, but they're locked up with you. So what we've done, when I say we, because we have other pastors involved too, what we've done is we give them a point of contact. We give them our church. We don't proselytize. We don't, but, if they're Christians, they'll tell us. But they'll say, tell us sometimes in my family, they go to church and, but they haven't been in a while. So some of these men and young folks, especially young folks, they're going up to do a bid. And we tell them, have your family members, your mom, come to church and we can communicate with you through them. And, that's how you build up them, because again, we have a direct line to that person and the family.
And you're building the support system.
Yes, sir. And that works out so well. So, and again, when you think about transparency and you think about, truth, when a man and a woman, we're all, I think, over 50. I can safely say that, right? Yeah. Mm-hmm. When a man and a woman, when we were young and we were dating, we met somebody, our eyes, attract to them, and, she's pretty. I just like that, So, at that point, we go to them, and, we got a little bit of facade going on, but still, because we want to impress, we always want to impress, that pretty, beautiful woman. So, but, at that point in time, we talk to them, and, our guard comes down as we get to know each other. Guard comes down, like I said, the transparency. So transparency leads to trust, and then the trust leads to, to love. You eventually, fall in love, and you get together. But those have to be in that domino effect. If they don't know you or they can't see you for who you truly are, and sometimes they can't because we're putting that facade on, But if they genuinely know you, that's how you can come together and two become one. So when you think about the transparency, the trust, and the love, everything has to be done in love. The Bible tells us, let love be our motivating force. So we have to love those folks who you mentor to. I mean, you have to have a genuine concern about their future. And you know what? You have to, some of these young men that are in there are so bright and have a future. So what you have to do is you have to find out what piques their interest. They have great skills. They have great skill set. They just have not used it to the betterment for themselves because for whatever reason, and again, some of the young folks are carrying guns because they fear. And that's one of the greatest motivators there. But one of my suggestions is, I say this cheek and tongue, but don't go out in the middle of the night, because, now the house have some safety. People still shoot up houses. I get that. But if you're in a house, you can be much safer than being out there at a certain time of night. I know they're shooting people in the daytime too, but the fact of the matter is, you don't want to be out there at that time.
Happens after midnight.
Nothing good happened now after 10. So.
Yeah.
But the fact of the matter is, you're right. And you have young women out there at that time. And we just have to pray and be mindful for them. But if love is our motivating force to do what we do, and I know I could tell that each one of you here love what you're doing. And again, when I get to retire from VP, whenever that is, because in my estimation, there's no such thing as a part-time pastor. I have a full-time job and I have a full-time calling. I mean, like I said, if I had to do it in my own strength, I wouldn't last. But because of the fact that I know who powers me and who I work for, and again, one thing about being who we are, don't we make for better workers? The Bible tells us when we work for a certain person or people that we're working for God. So when we mentor to these people, we tell them, their abilities and their skill set, we can find them, and we're putting together programs where we can put them in, where they can have, support, where they can learn a trade while they're in there and get compensated. Of course, they don't get the money until they're out, but it doesn't stop there. You have to continue with them, where they would have to, continue in the program, where eventually, and the goal is to get them to be a part of the American dream. The American dream is to have a house, have something of your own, something that you can pass down, and something that you can lead to your children, a legacy. You want them to have those things because, again, I think you heard me say this before, how you change the face of a neighborhood is you invest in the people in that neighborhood. Everybody in that neighborhood is not, up to no good. You got, grandmas in that neighborhood who won't come out because of the fact that the streets are no longer safe. And one of the things that I've learned talking to the young guys, that are incarcerated, that they hear one thing from the older guys on the street. That's why you see the younger guys with the older guys, the younger guys, and there's two of them together because, again, that's one of the misconceptions that we have today. They're not family. They're doing something, and you already know that. But the fact of the matter is, when these young guys go downtown and they talk to the guys who are genuinely concerned about their future, they know what's up, and they do know what's up. They understand the fact that this guy is misleading for their purposes, for their, because they know that they're of a certain age, they won't have to do a lot of time, and they'll be back out next week or whatever. But we're losing our children and a generation, and it has to stop. So again, mentorship, being transparent, being truthful, doing it in love, and that's how we come together. I mean, even when we don't agree, we can agree to disagree. We can understand each other's point of view, and respect it. You might not agree with it, but you can respect it. I mean, look what Jesus did. He took 12 ordinary folks and he turned the world right side up. I mean, all that togetherness, it leads to unity. It leads to so much more where we can care for one another and certainly invest in each other. And that's what Christianity is. It's investing in one another. It's loving one another. It's caring about one another, and it's sharing. In the book of Acts, we're all together on one accord. That's the theme of the church that I pastor. Serving one another. And without intrepidation, without anything they wanted to come back to them. It's a sad situation that we're in this time that we live in, and I feel like we're not doing enough, and certainly the church has missed the step. I mean, the church is still out there. We're still doing what we're supposed to do, but we have to do more. And togetherness, because of our schedules, because of our jobs, because of our families, sometimes we can't be where we want to be and do what we want to do, but we can send representatives. We can send other folks. Like I said, we have other folks coming, and we should. I mean, like Brother Curtis. He's, I think he's,
Yeah.
so again,
Man, solid man.
yes, again, all those guys that you had that day when I first came, I knew every one of them. I grew up with them. And we look at where we came from and where we are now, and we know it's nothing but the grace of God. Because we understand, Mike, that because of our parents and the wisdom that they instilled in us, we're still here today. And that's what's not doing, that's what we're not doing with the youth today. We're not, I mean, like I said, they're very smart, they're intelligent. And every generation gets smarter and smarter. We know that, you know. And of course they get clever, but they don't have the wisdom and the guidance. And, you know, that's what's surely lacking. But again, the business of the church is not inside of the walls of the church. It's outside. It's on the street. It's in the homes. And, you know, it's like you said, I mean, what are you doing with that young man or that young woman who lives right next to you and doesn't have a father? What are you doing? When I grew up and before my mother married my stepfather, it was 2 or 3 fathers on the street, and this was in the 60s, but he was everybody's father. If the ice cream truck came and he bought his kids ice cream, 10 kids got ice cream. And Mr. Slater was an incredible man, and he passed on younger, but you know what? That's what's surely lacking. I mean, the neighborhood. We have no more neighborhoods. So, but you know, again, with the mentoring fact, and for those who would want to listen and those who would want to surely change the direction of their lives, there is an answer, and they have to want it. So we have programs. The sheriff office is coming up with the program, and you know, it's again where we can help them, but they have to want to help themselves. They have to want to say, this is enough. This is not my life. This is not the life I want. I want to do better. I have kids. I don't want them to come here. I have you know, family members. I don't want them to die. So again, we as the church, we still have a job, and we're still crucial to this time. So, but again, like, you know, you said, you know, mentoring, you know, it's older guys in there too that, you know, I get to talk to. And, you know, you always got those older guys that they those scripture left and right. But it's so nice to go into a block and they're having a Bible study and they ask you to join.
A jail block.
Yes. Yeah. So again, you know, so, and they ask you to join. And not only that, they says, you know, we're going to invite you to a meal, sit down. They have their meals, they sit down, they cook and stuff. And I'm looking forward to that. But again, it's investing, because somebody invested in me. Somebody mentored me. And, you know, you never see yourself in these positions. You never think the fact that, you know, that you're going to be a pastor of a church, or that you're going to this, or you're going to that, you're going to, you know, you never think of those things. But again, when you get out of yourself and, you know, you step back, and like I said, you know, before I preach, every time I preach, I say a prayer. I say, Lord, my heart belongs to you, and my mind does too. For my life and times are in your hands. May the words of my mouth, the meditation of my heart be accepted in thy sight. Because I understand that this is bigger than me. It's bigger than men. It's all about the love of Christ. And, you know, when I think about how they stretched him wide, you know, from east to west, how they hung him high from north to south, to cover the whole world, the sins of the whole world. It's an amazing thing. And so I get excited about that when I think about what was done for me. And if you think about it, if you had a big old bag of candy, hundreds of pieces in it, you got all these people next to you, aren't you going to want to share some of that? You should want to share some of that. So, you know, and that's what this gospel is about. That's what those 12 men did. They turned the world right side up. And it's a shame that we're losing our young folks to this time. So again, I'm blessed to have a church with every age from 6 months to almost 90. And again, We have a great ministry, but it belongs to Christ, and it's because of Christ. So I thank you for asking me here, Mike, because again, I don't like doing this, but again, for Jesus, for Jesus,
Can we ask you a few questions now?
by all means.
You talked about the need for mentors or mentors in your life. Can you tell us a little bit about your father and or mentors that invested in you?
Oh yeah, my father and my older brother, they're both gone home now. My father, again, he was a plumber, and he's my father because, and here's the funny thing, you're gonna love this. My mother, beautiful woman, and she had 6 kids, 3 boys and 3 girls. The 2 older women, they were adults, and of course they had their own families, and they lived in, well, my older brother lived in North Carolina, Beaufort, North Carolina, right near Atlantic City. But I used to pray because we went to church all the time, and every day we went to church. My mom was very strict on that, and I used to pray that send my mom, God, send my mom a 6'6" husband, good looking, strong and burl. God hears what he wants to hear, and he certainly gives what he wants to give. So he sent him a 5-foot guy. He was handsome, and he had muscles like Popeye. But I'm like, he was a great man, and he taught me and my brother Jerome great work ethics. He taught us that he says, I'll do anything for you, but you have to work too. So my friends would come around and says, oh, you're always working, you're cutting the grass, you're doing this, you're going on the farm and doing this and doing that. I says, yeah, but I got money in my pocket. And my dad, he was like that. So he taught us how to be men at a young age. And he gave us a lot of independence in that sense that I was able to buy my first car at 14 or 15. I couldn't drive it. I knew how to drive because he taught me how, but you couldn't drive legally. Yeah. But he was a great father, and he was a hard worker. He was a type of man that would, again, he was a plumber by trade, but he knew how to do everything. Get on top of the roof and fix our roof and fall 30 feet. I'm telling you the truth. Cracked his head wide open. I'm like, Dad, let's go to the hospital. He says, oh, it's nothing. Your brain hanging out, But he would, again, if I could be a tenth of the man that he was, and my brother who was a great man too. He was always the biggest kid in the class. Those guys were my mentor, and I hung out with those guys every Saturday. Every single Saturday, they would come to my house, and I would fix submarines. We watched the games and have a few beers, and those were my heroes, my brother and my father. But God.
Where did you grow up?
Right here in Rochester. I'm originally from Rochester. I grew up on mostly on the east side. We lived on the west side for a few years, but mostly on Central Avenue, Central Park, 4th Street. In Bay and Goodman. Grew up on Bay and Goodman and Pisa. We spent our formative years from 10 to about 20, and then 21. I got married and moved on. But
what years were you on Central?
Central Avenue, or Central Park.
Central Park.
From 68 to 80.
Okay.
68 to, did I say it right? Yeah, 68 to about, close to 80 because I graduated in 77, but yeah.
Central Park in Goodman.
Yeah.
There was an Arco gas station on the corner there.
Yes.
That was my dad's. Wow.
Amen. Yes, that was pretty good. Remember Froggy's that was down the street there? And
so across the street was the Gherkins Bowling Supply.
That's right.
That was my cousin's.
Speedy Cleaners?
Speedy Cleaners.
Royals, I'm sorry.
And my dad was on the other corner. Yeah.
That's right. So it's a small
Small
neighborhood.
world once you have to paint it.
Yes, I'm telling you. But, back then in 68, Central Park was like the parks. They were beautiful. Yes. The public market, and it was the Jellos were right there at that gas station on 5th Street, and again, but it was a great neighborhood to grow up in. It was
Felix
awesome.
Talked a lot about the neighborhood, and the accountability on every corner.
Yeah.
And he grew up in Central Park over there by the market too.
Yeah, the public market was man, that was great to go there when we were kids.
And now I heard you say that now Grandma's afraid to go outside.
Yes.
And that's what's missing. That's the neighborhood. That's the
Mm.
accountability is driven inside that can't come out.
You know, Mike, you say that my mom lived at 342 4th Street, and she was there by herself. And my mom, I says, you're going to come live with us. And I moved her stuff out to my house 5 years before I got her out there.
Mm-hmm.
But her last 10 years of her life, it was the best years of her life and our lives. It enriched us. My wife quit her job to take care of my mom. And it was such a funny thing because I would go visit. My wife would take my mother to the doctor. I would go visit the doctors. And they would say, your wife's back there with your mother-in-law. I says, that's my mother, because they were so close.
Yeah.
They were so close. But yeah, it became a neighborhood where shootings right next door twice. People got killed, but you know,
Because the grandmas would take down a switch too on any kid, right?
they had the right to. You went from a society where you had morals, where any adult can tell you, you know, what to do and you had to do it. Then you went to an immoral society where, you know, nobody better touch my kids but me. And now we're in an amoral society where kids don't want to listen to anybody, judges, police. They don't want to, you know. So again, that's where we are. But, you know, I refused to quit.
Amen. Amen.
Pastor,
Catch one.
did you name your church?
No. Helping Hand was named by Pastor Harris, Pastor Leroy Harris. He founded the church. My mother, him, my brother-in-law, Deacon White, and his wife, Cluster May. And that was back in the 80s, 70s, 80s. And at that point, they were in a house, and then they moved to North Street right there, almost by the little, not the expressway, but it's a little pathway there, you know, right there.
Oh, the interloop.
Interlude, thank you. And my father in the ministry, Emmett L. Myrick, he incorporated, and we moved to. You want to hear a funny story? The church where I'm at right now used to be Peace Baptist, and I grew up in Peace Baptist. That was my home church. That was a church my mom made us go to. It used to be on Leopold Street. Leopold Street is no longer there. House of Hadlock Paint was on the corner. Frank's Hots was on, you know, around Central Avenue. So, you know, you go to church, and then you get older. You're like, hey, I got freedom. I don't have to go to church as much as I want to. You still go, but, you know, then again, you get to yourself. You're like, I ain't gotta go. So, you know, I joined Peace Baptist, and Leopold Street was along there, so it was right at 703 Joseph Avenue. Reverend Willie Harvey was the pastor. And I had, you know, I was doing good, and of course I was at VP. I had a good job, and I gave my right hand. I says, Reverend Harvey, I'm never leaving this building again. This building, I said, you know, I says, I'm doing good. I said, so many people come to church when they're doing bad, they're doing down. I said, I'm coming, I'm up, I'm gonna stay here. I'm never leaving this building again. Oh yeah. But my mother had, you know, in the interim, they had founded Helping Hand, and one day I joined the church. That night I remember, I says, you know, because there's this thing called backsliding. So I knew I had to talk with the Lord, and he talked with me, and I says, if you let me live to see tomorrow morning, I'm coming, and I'm never leaving. So I went tomorrow morning. I took my entire family. My brother's kids were living with me because he had passed on. We got up and went to church. All the kids, it was about 14 of us. The church was no bigger than from there to here. I got up crying because I knew the Lord had spared me, and I went down with my head down, and I went and joined the church. My wife joined the church. The kids joined the church. My sister-in-law joined the church. My niece joined 14 deep, and my little 2-year-old baby came running up behind us. We joined the church. And 2 weeks later, 2 weeks later, I put the sign up at 703 Joseph Avenue. God's got a great sense of humor.
Amen.
And I've been there for on and off because I went to Pentecostal, but 20 years, 2000.
Was there something specific that inspired the Helping Hands? What inspired that?
I think it's because of the fact that Pastor Harris and Mother Cluster May Harris, she's a lady emeritus, and so is the second lady, which is Myrick. They're both there. The Harrises would feed the community. They would go and collect food and feed it, helping hand. So, that's what the name of the church, and that inspired it. And again, that name, we live up to the expectation. We truly do. I believe that with all my heart.
That was kind of the question I had about the Helping
Right.
Hands, because I know some of the gentlemen from your church have been here. We've met them. We know
Yes.
that they all have a heart to serve. If you were to give advice to a pastor who is wanting to have their church be more active, like you said, outside the walls of the church in the community, what would you do? What advice would you give?
You're doing it right now. I think you're setting the example. I mean, if they see you go, they know what I'm involved in. Excuse me. Excuse me. Thank you. They know what I'm involved in. They know that I pray for them, and they certainly reciprocate. So I've got a lot of help, but if you want to put it specifically, I mean, if I can say this, outwork them.
Yeah.
Outwork them. If you outwork them, and some, just like, you can't outgive God, so if you outwork them and you show them, they're like, Pastor, you got to slow down. I says, I will. God knows how to, slow you down. But you outwork them. You outwork them.
Very poignant for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just got
Another
stop
story.
sign.
So again,
I have a question. I know you're probably wanting to get going.
I'm good.
You'll go help your wife. But,
I'm good.
I'm curious about your prison ministry. Of the men that you're getting to know there, how many of them would you say are fathers? And then do you think that they, while they're in prison, would welcome a Christian mentoring organization to kind of fill in the gap while they're doing their time? Can you tell us about that?
Certainly, they would love that because they feel that it's not enough Christian mentoring in the jail. They have, and again, the chaplain, I love him. He's great, but he's only one person. Yeah. And he has to abide by certain guidelines. We all do because, again, but they would definitely love to see more Christians in there. Now, some, you can always have some that want to be argumentative and some is going to want to debate the Bible with you. But, apologetics is not, arguing the Bible. It's pointing them to the word and let them, explain it to them. And, because some people will take that one verse out of content and build a whole summation around it. But again, and it, you talk to them and, because again, you have a lot of people that are, incarcerated that have lawyers and you have a lot of preachers in there. So, but again, I mean, like I said, transparency, trust, and certainly when you're genuine and they know who you are, they will sit down and you can talk to them. I went in there 3 weeks ago into I try to hit most of the sections, but I try to do it around lunchtime, so I, don't take away. But the fact of the matter is, I went there and one guy was so angry because I was telling him about some programs, and he was like, well, first of all, we got to change the justice system. I says, well, I'm not here for that. I'm here, and I wasn't, because again, that's a whole nother story. And I understand that, again, some folks feel like, I did it, but they caught me the wrong way or something like that. I can't get into that, but and I can't get into that, so semantics. So, but anyway, though I says, so he was so angry. He says, I don't want to know about a job. I don't want to know about what programs you got set up. And he said, I want to know about how you're going to fix the justice system. I says, well, I don't have an answer for you that. I says, but he said, so we talked and he says, well, could you pray for me? So, again, because I was willing to listen to him,